Do you ever black out while writing an essay? I genuinely cannot remember the process of writing any essay I have written over the course of my educational career. Like, they just kind of happened. Okay, so basically, where do I even start? We're gonna jump right to the end of the story, and then I'm gonna tell you all the background information that I really don't need to tell you, but I want to tell you. So, to the conclusion, I just spent the last hour working on a paragraph in an essay, and I remember starting it, and I remember shutting the lid of my computer. What I actually wrote, I have no idea. It just happened, and I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, wait, how did that get there? So essentially, not to toot my own horn, but I can write a pretty damn good essay. And the reason why I know that is because I have always received praise for my essay writing skills, which is a blessing and a curse. It is a blessing because, great, I get an A. But it is a curse because then I am expected to always get an A on an essay, because that's just Jasmine. Jasmine can write really good. And so if I got any grade lower than an A, it'd be like, Jasmine, what is happening? Jasmine, you have gone off the rails. Jasmine, what happened? Essays are my worst nightmare. They are my worst nightmare. I get anxious when a professor says that we have an essay. I get anxious thinking about writing an essay. I get anxious leading up to when I know I have to sit at my computer and write an essay. I've done a really good job about breaking up the essay writing process. I start really early. Right? I'll calculate how many paragraphs I need to write, and then I'll calculate how many days I have before the essay is due. I will subtract 1 day for emergencies, so I will submit the day before it's due, just in case, my car breaks down, right? And then I will add 1 day for editing and reading it over. Then I'll add 24 hours to sleep on it. Then from there, I'll go back and add 1 day for 2 paragraphs, or even 1 day per paragraph. I will only write 1 or 2 paragraphs at a time, nothing more, because anything other than that, just the thought of writing a paragraph has become so overwhelming to me. So overwhelming. I will literally wake up and know that the only thing I have to do that day is write 1 paragraph of an essay, and I will literally sit in bed and cry the entire day until 11 p.m. rolls around. I'm like, Jasmine, if you don't write this fucking paragraph right now, you're screwed. So then I just black out and I write it, and I have no idea how that happens. But why it's become so stressful is just knowing that I have set the standard for myself. I have set the bar, and anything below that is just failure. It's just uh-oh, what are we doing? School is expensive, and you're just wasting, this is just money thrown out the window. If you're not going to put your best foot forward, if you're not going to constantly outdo yourself, what are you doing? You are just throwing money out the window, which is absolutely not true, but that's just what my brain reverts to. While I know my finished product of an essay is typically pretty decent, it's not easy. It's not that just flows right out of me. The planning process, the writing process, the editing process, there are steps to get to that final product. It's not like I can just write this beautiful essay straight out of my ass. That's not how it works. I think my rough drafts are literal shit. They are literal shit. The magic happens in the editing process, which I really don't mind. But it's the initial writing process of figuring out that it's like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle, and it's the world's hardest puzzle, trying to get all your thoughts to connect together, and the thesis, and the 2-pronged thesis, and the hook, and is the hook good enough, and is your finishing sentence, and don't use too many colons, and, I have a habit of using way too many semicolons and hyphens, and I'm like, Jasmine, just stop. And sentence structure, it's all It's all of the rules and regulations of essay writing that stress me out, not the actual content. That all comes from the public education system. Like, it's truly their fault. Like, I am not to blame here. Like, it is truly the way I was conditioned in my 4 years in the public education system, because I grew up going to a Montessori school. Essays, tests, quizzes, grades weren't a thing, was never an issue. I was great. I learned a lot. I learned more in Montessori than I did in public school. That could be a whole nother topic of conversation, but essentially, I never want to write an essay ever again in my entire life. I never ever do. I really don't. They make me cry. They make me anxious. I lose sleep over them. They make me depressed. Like, and when I say depressed, I don't mean like, I'm sad. I mean like full on like depressive episode. Like, I'm not kidding. Don't want to get out of bed. Can't focus. I can't sleep. Just trying to numb out my thoughts. Like, knowing that I have to write an essay like triggers me into a full-blown depressive episode spiral. It's true. And that sounds ridiculous, but I'm sure we all have something similar. It was really bad at ASU because I had one class for being in the honors college where literally your grade was the 4 essays you had to write during the semester. And these were intense essays, okay? They were argumentative essays on books we had to read, and I am not a good reader, as I've talked about before. I have a really hard time with reading, like, educational content, right? A lot of us do. Those essays were a double nightmare because it was not only reading, it was writing a spectacular essay. These essays, I would wake up at 5 a.m. every morning so I could just try to write like 3 sentences without wanting to cry. Because I was like, Jasmine, if you force yourself to get up early, then you have no choice but to just do it and just get it over with. And that's why I got up so early at ASU, just so I could write those goddamn essays. I literally know that I'm going to turn in this essay and immediately feel just 10 times happier. And here's the thing. This essay, like obviously it has to be good, right? Like, I would prefer to write something good. If I got a B, okay. So, I've proven myself. Like, I have proven that, like, I can do some good work, right? I was assigned a final project for one of my classes. Actually, it's the same class. And I was reading the rubric for the assignment, and it was this big presentation, and I was like, great, love presentations, I can do that. But then on top of that was a 500-word essay, and I literally almost left the room crying, not because I was like, work, but I was just like, oh my god, I have to go through the emotional trauma of like writing like an essay again. And when I think about having to go to school for another like 2 years, because I'll be done in 2 years, the tipping point for me is knowing that I will have to write more essays. I think about just not even going to college at all, purely because I am so, like, writing essays is so hard and traumatic and triggering, and I'm sure this all sounds very ridiculous, but again, I'm sure we all have those things that for some people are just very normal and you don't think twice about it, but to us it's like, oh my god. Maybe for you in school it's like math, just like knowing you have math homework to do or knowing you have a math test. Like, it's not like, oh my god, I'm so bad at math. It's like you genuinely are like mentally not okay. Like, just knowing that you have to like, it's like, it's performance anxiety, it's perfectionism. It's like, I'm like, why do we have to write professionally? Why do we have to talk to some people professionally and not others? Like, I get it to a certain extent, like, in terms of, like, respect. Like, yes, like, be respectful to everyone, right? Be respectful. And yes, there are some things you should talk about, with some people and talk about with others. Like, you know, I'm not going to talk to my mom about the same things that I would talk to like Barack Obama about, right? But I'm like, why are there all these rules for like professional writing? I'm like, why can't I just like tell you how I feel and not have to like even think twice about how I am saying it and just like let it happen naturally? Again, respect is big. Respect and tone are big. Maybe this isn't making sense. Maybe this isn't making any sense. I was thinking about the other night because I was procrastinating writing this one of my paragraphs for yesterday, and I was procrastinating by going to say goodnight to my parents, which wasn't really procrastinating, but I was like, oh, well, I gotta say goodnight to my parents, so I'll go do that first, right? And every night I go into my parents' room and I say goodnight, and I go in, I always give my mom a hug, and then usually I'll just sit there on the bed, we'll just sit there in silence, and I'll watch like some of the news, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm watching the news, and I've always had such a hard time with like the way news reporters talk. But last night, especially in the context of like not wanting to write this essay, I was like, why? Like, isn't it wild that like we have to train people to talk a certain way just to deliver the news? They've got to talk with a certain tone just so they can tell us that there was a mass shooting. Why does it have to be like this? I know talking monotone also helps to reduce bias. However, talking like this kind of doesn't. Like, I'm like, why do we have to be like robots? You know what I mean? Like, who started this? For example, when I talk to my professors in class, I talk to them very casually, but I also talk to them in a very respectful manner. And I obviously don't talk to them about like, you know, personal things. They are obviously like higher above me, like they are, you know, but I don't go up to them and go, hello, professor. My name is Jasmine. I have a particular question for you. I was wondering if, like, I'll be like, hey, I have a question. And then I'll say my question. And then I'll be like, tell me a little bit about that, right? Super casual. But then when I send an email to the same person who I talk to very casually in person, I've got to send them this email that if it isn't formatted correctly and if it doesn't say certain things, all of a sudden I'm gonna come across as rude, unprofessional, blah, 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 right? If I don't say hello, blank, comma, space, indent, you know, my name, like, I am this person, da 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 da. If I don't say best regards, if I say thanks instead of best regards, you are a illiterate fuck. I'm like, why? Why? Will I continue to do it? Of course. But I'm like, it just got me thinking, like, how did this, like, come about? How did this sort of, like, need for, like, this, like, robot language? Like, why can't we just write and talk to each other like normal people? Things can still remain professional when it comes to, again, respect, privacy, not talking about, you know, certain things in the workplace, like, but in terms of like the way you communicate things, like, why can't we just relax, please? Can we just chill? Can we all stop just like being like robots, and can we just talk to each other like normal people? Also, I love this angle. It reminds me of like, you know, those like cameras on YouTube, like from like the San Diego Zoo, where they've got like 24-hour like live footage of like the pandas. That's what this reminds me of. This is like 24-hour live GoPro footage of me in bed having a crisis over a Google Docs. Oh my god, I've been rambling on about essays for 20 minutes. Oh my god, I'm really sorry. I'm gonna get minimal sleep and then wake up and have therapy for the first time in 2 weeks, and it's gonna be great. Peace, love. How do I make a heart with one hand? I see people do this shit. I'm like, that is not a heart. That is a computer mouse cursor. That is not a heart. Or they'll do this. Nothing makes me more uncomfortable. I don't know why. You're probably sitting there asking me, Jasmine, why does that make I don't know. It just does. And like a lot of things in this world, some things just don't have an Oh, we lost another 2 rhinestones. May she rest in peace. But like, nothing scares me more than when I say goodbye to someone and they're like, love you. Girl, are you good? Or they'll go like this, or they'll go, oh my god, love you so much. Like, where were you raised? And are you okay? Blink twice if you're okay. Like, like, just, like, this is like an innate response that we're born with. Anyways, I'm going to bed.